When Jakks Pacific revealed their first line of Sonic toys, I think it's safe to say that the majority of people were a little bit underwhelmed. Oh, don't get me wrong, the bendy figures are cool and well made, but with the first wave being the usual main cast of characters, it did feel like we'd seen this toy line before, especially since Tomy finished their line with a Zavok and Infinite figure. Going back to the main core cast did feel just a little bit disappointing, mainly in that we wouldn't see characters outside of the main core cast for a very long time. But within a few months, Jakks Pacific revealed more characters in their Sonic line, which have made me say, oh my god, I can't believe we're getting that on more than one occasion. The main reason for this is due to the inclusion of both Ray and Mighty, two characters which have been unused for years now. They're finally in the spotlight, and as a result, we got figures of these characters for the first time in their history. But Jakks Pacific is about to one-up themselves and make the dreams of many a Sonic fan come true by creating plushies based on Ray and Mighty. Whilst we have to wait a little while for these plushies to make it to stores, thanks to some unexpected set of events, the prototypes for these plushies recently popped up for sale online, and it's my absolute pleasure to be the first person to bring you the first full in-depth look at these two plushies. So before I get into this, I need to extend a huge thank you to Mighty the Armadillo superfan, Mighty Sen, for reaching out and allowing us to get a very good look at these. So let's talk a little about how I actually ended up with these plushies before we first take our look at them. Jakks Pacific revealed their Mighty the Armadillo plush on July 20th, 2019 at the San Diego Comic-Con. During their panel, they revealed Wave 2 of their bendable Sonic figure line and the confirmation that Wave 2 of their plush line would include a Super Sonic and, for the first time ever, a Mighty the Armadillo plush. Following this reveal, things went just a little bit quiet, until a second image appeared online that, for lack of a better expression, raised a few eyebrows. The image appeared on a Chinese auction website and appeared to show the prototype Mighty, Knuckles, and Super Sonic plush, as well as an unannounced Ray the Flying Squirrel plush. Prototype plushies are often made as a proof of concept for license approval and for potential retail sales. Typically, they're usually destroyed after the plush is approved or rejected, but sometimes someone at the factory will actually take them and they end up for sale on various auction sites. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. Both Jazzwares and Tomy have had prototype plushies appear online and fans have been quick to purchase them. But what makes this case stand out is that for the first time, a prototype plush has emerged for sale before the actual plush has been released, and in the case of Ray, before the plush has even been announced. And while some may question if these were legitimate prototypes, the biggest supporting clue in their favour came from the concept image that showed the first wave of plushies. The Knuckles plush looks near identical, but since the original auction, the prototypes disappeared, and other than an actual retail listing for Ray and a final render of Mighty, nothing much else happened. And then out of nowhere, each of the prototype plushies appeared on eBay as individual lots. The Super Sonic and Knuckles plush sold for around £150 each, whereas the Mighty plush sold for £455, and the Ray plush sold for almost £530. In total, the entire plush line sold for just over £1,260, or just under $1,560. And the winner of the Mighty auction was Mighty the Armadillo superfan Mighty Sen, who was later contacted by the seller with a second chance offer for Ray, and they instantly agreed to the sale and ended up with both plushies. And a few days ago, prior to the recording of this video, I spoke to them about their purchase, and what you're looking at now are the plushies that they received. So let's take a very close, in-depth look at these amazing prototypes, and we'll start with Mighty. Considering this is a very early prototype plush, it's surprisingly well made, especially when compared to the Knuckles prototype. The majority of the plush is made of standard plush material. The best comparison I can make is that it's very similar to a plush made by GE Entertainment. But let's start with Mighty's head and face. The eyes are very simple, just a printed fabric which unfortunately is already showing signs of damage, but thankfully the final plush will have more detailed stitching, so it won't develop this problem. The mouth is unfortunately the weakest part of the plush. It's made of a separate piece of material, which is just a cheap and easy way to give the plush an approximate facial expression. Mighty's nose is made of a vinyl-like material, material, and there's no stuffing in it whatsoever, but the material does give off a nice shine effect which is common in a lot of Sonic artwork. The ears lack some details from the final design, but they still look great, and there's no sign of the stitching which is actually holding them in place. This is partly what I mean by, despite this being just a proof of concept plush, parts of it are made to a really high standard. With the exception of where the stitching holds parts of the vinyl material, the stitching isn't that noticeable on this plush at all. The red material, which is part of Mighty's exoskeleton, is ironically one of the softest parts of the plush, which sounds contradictory, but this is nicely contrasted by the vinyl material which is used on Mighty's gloves and fists. The limited use of the vinyl for the fists helps give the sense of Mighty's strength and power. In fact, speaking of his fists, Mighty's hands and gloves are made in a way which I think is actually better than the final plush design. In the prototype plush, the fingers are clenched to form a fist, whereas the final plush doesn't make any attempt to give Mighty the illusion that he has his hands clenched to form a fist. Combined with the use of the vinyl material, it gives Mighty a unique sense of power, especially when compared to other plushies from Jakks Pacific. His shoes are made of the same vinyl material, which gives the impression that he's wearing leather shoes, and they look really nice. The white part appears to be another piece of vinyl instead of ribbon. It also seems that Mighty at one point did actually have a tush tag attached to him, but it was cut off at some point between being constructed and actually leaving the factory. Ray, on the other hand, has no indication that he was ever given a tush tag of any kind. And for a prototype plush that was made just to be a proof of concept, it's actually pretty good. It's very well stuffed, and most of the stitching is hidden and out of place, except for the stitching around the vinyl material, but that was always going to be noticeable due to the fact that the vinyl material helps reflect light off it. So let's now move on to what is arguably the main attraction, the Ray plush. Let's just get the obvious out of the way. The fact that just this prototype plush exists at all is simply incredible. Whilst we knew that Mighty was in development, Ray was a complete surprise, so let's take a closer look at him. As with Mighty, Ray stands at around 6 inches tall and has very basic vinyl-like print for the eyes, and they're also unfortunately showing some signs of damage, though not as bad as Mighty, and the stitching is actually a lot less visible around the eyes. Unfortunately, much like the Mighty counterpart, the mouth is the weakest part of the plush. It's just a cheap and quick solution to give a basic facial expression to Ray. But remember, these are the initial proof of concepts. These plushies are not even the second or even final prototypes. The nose is the same design as Mighty. It's a piece of vinyl material stitched into a flap. And speaking of flaps, if you actually look at the top of Ray's head, you can see a small piece of fabric which has been used to give the impression of Ray's small tuft of hair. It's basic, but it does do a pretty good job actually of giving him that bit of extra detail. But one area which shows a lot of detail and almost looks like the final standard are Ray's ears. The stitching around them gives a basic sense of depth and detail, which is completely missing on the Mighty prototype. I hope that this level of detail makes it into the eventual release, because it looks brilliant. As with the Mighty plush, Ray's hands are made of a vinyl material, and his fingers are also clenched into a fist, though not as tightly as the Mighty prototype is. His shoes are also made from that same vinyl material, and again, it does make them look great. Unlike Mighty though, these appear to be much better in terms of detail and quality. The stitches are harder to see, and they've actually captured the design of Ray's shoes very well. The white stripes on his shoes are actually made of a ribbon material instead of another vinyl fabric. It's unfortunate that the final plushies won't have this vinyl material on them, however in the long run it's probably a good thing. Plushies that have this special shiny material on them do tend to wear away faster than those that just stick to traditional plush-like fabric. There is one thing that is actually missing from the Ray plush, which Ray actually has as his primary character trait, his gliding wing flaps that he used to maintain flight. They're completely missing from the plush, and whilst I'm hopeful that this will get changed for the final design and he will have his glide wing flaps, something tells me that they probably won't include this just because it will be that extra bit of detail which most people probably won't even notice. One major difference between the Ray and the Mighty plush is that Ray has his iconic tail. The tail is made of 2 pieces of plush fabric, and it doesn't have have any stuffing within it, meaning it flaps around a lot when you hold it. Personally, I hope the final design is more stuffed, but as is the case with these plushies, they're made to be proof of concepts, not the final prototype design. So this ends the close-up analysis of the plushies, but there are a few more interesting details that I can share regarding them. The first being that the person that actually sold the plushies confirmed via a Twitch stream that they have in fact 4 sets of these prototypes, meaning that in total there are another 3 Ray and Mighties out there somewhere in the wild, alongside 4 prototype Knuckles and Supersonic plushies. So we might see more of these pop up in the hands of collectors in the near future. In the past, we have seen plushies based off some of the sidecast reach the prototype stage and then get cancelled due to either a lack of approval from Sega or simply a lack of retail and customer demand. With Mighty up for pre-orders, I think it's very safe to say that he will definitely get released, but Ray has only had 1 listing which has popped up and then got removed a few days later, so I really do hope that he too will get released, because I would love to have this pair in my collection someday. And thanks to the popularity of Sonic Mania and the cartoon show Sonic Mania Adventures, it seems to have finally tipped the balance that these characters are now actually viable characters that can push sales. But of course, there is another character who had a minor cameo role in Sonic Mania, who is also a bit overdue for a revival. So I should probably end this by thanking Mighty Sen for providing the video and images of the plushies for use in this video. It does give us a really good look at these extremely rare prototypes. But guys, let me know what you think about these in the comments. I, for one, intend to get both Ray and Mighty in my house because I love those characters. But how about you guys? Have you guys got any plans to get Ray and Mighty when they're finally released? And please let me know your thoughts on these in the comments. See you next time.